Hello everybody and welcome back to Fudge's Black Hole. Today we're talking about the many different kinds of rents as our main topic. Quasi-rents, whether that be about networks that you see with social media companies based in California, whether you have innovation rents, Schumpeterian style, or other short-lived temporary rents. We'll also be including some sexism in the workplace with my lovely wife Martina, and then also covering our thoughts on Bitcoin and crypto in general. Today is currently hotter than the unlubricated friction burn at a major orgy, and so I will be sweating profusely during. Anyway, let's get into it.
Guys, it's too hot.
Might be too hot.
It's 35 degrees on the balcony. We have a fan on. I'm sorry if you can hear any noise, but it's just too hot. We can't survive. I'm dying. I don't even have a cup of tea today. I decided I'm gonna have a Diet Coke.
Honestly, valid. We've even brought the fan out on the balcony for absolutely no reason whatsoever. It's doing literally nothing. It's currently 36 degrees. And in fact, while we're on this, I'm going to deviate us quickly for a silly economics fact.
1 second. Before you do that, you know what came to my mind? Rishi Sunak meme. I love Coke. I love Coke.
What?
Do you not remember the Rishi Sunak meme? He was like, I love Coke so much.
No. I thought you meant the Rishi Sunak meme where there's a guy who looks a lot like Rishi Sunak at an Ibiza nightclub. He's like, ooh, ooh, and he looks like he's off on Charlie.
I love Coke.
I love Coke.
Go on, what is your economic meme that I so rudely interrupted?
Stupid economics fact. Apparently, the productive capacity of India is 3% lower than it should be due to the effects of global warming, strictly because of the effects against productivity of working in such high temperatures. In fact, there's a good study on educational outcomes in the United States that shows that test scores are 1% lower for every 1 degree Fahrenheit higher. I don't know why they measured it in Fahrenheit, not particularly scientific, and a very stupid measure of temperature.
Americans.
But if I mess up any kind of description here, or we make any kind of stupid point, please make sure to blame global warming, because it is too bloody hot.
Might be too hot.
Literally. Economics fact.
Mr. Fudge, quasi-rent and enshittification. What is that? Explain it.
So, there's a concept from the economist Marshall called quasi-rents. These are short-lived or temporary rents that exist in separate markets based on different conditions. Nothing like a pure rent, which is a rent for, say, a piece of land that doesn't diminish. A quasi-rent is called quasi-rent because it does diminish over a time scale or diminishes due to some other factor like competitive entry or similar. So there's a few good examples of these quasi-rents. Strictly, you could have a brand rent, i.e. your product is worth more in a market and is structurally worth more in a market because of the brand association to it. So that's a good reason why a Prada set of sunglasses is worth more than a different set of sunglasses. As a good example, people like the brand name. That earns them a rent, i.e. a small additional amount of profit or revenue relative to their competitors who don't have that brand Prada. Another great one would be innovation rents. So you have a Schumpeterian rent. Again, similar phrasing. Schumpeterian rent is when you innovate, you create something brand new. And for a short time lag, where people can't imitate your product yet, they're still learning how to make the bloody thing, you are able to command either an additional quantity of sales or a higher price for your good in a short term, where you can generate a higher revenue and potentially a higher profit during that medium term because you innovated. They call that a Schumpeterian rent. Other ones you get all sorts of different types of quasi-rents under Marshall. You also get network rents. That's a great one which we can touch on today because there's a hilarious piece that came out from Krugman, which is the economics of enshittification, which I'm sure we've all felt before. Why these social networks start out not so bad and turn into shit with all sorts of terrible ads all over them, things like this. There's actually a perfect economic rationale for that, the network rent. There's a few others as well, but I think those are the funniest, which we'll probably touch on today.
Mr. Fudge, can you explain to us what brand rent is?
Oh, brand rent's a very easy one. So people who have a positive connotation of a brand may also then have a positive connotation of the product and may also pay more for it. Brand rents are usually reinforced by a marketing budget. Easiest example for everyone at home, Kylie Cosmetics. I don't much know about makeup. Is Kylie Cosmetics good? Is it good?
Kylie Cosmetics is good, but we shouldn't be buying anything from the Kardashians in general.
Pretty valid, fair enough.
The product is good, but there are so many other alternatives. So although I do have quite a few Kylie cosmetic things, I'm going to run out of them and find alternatives.
Fair enough. But the key point is that Kylie Cosmetics, they're usually a little bit more expensive than, say, an equivalent that is basically just as good that you find at Boots, right?
Yeah, like L'Oreal. L'Oreal is, you have two types of makeup, by the way. You have drugstore makeup and high-end makeup. I would say Kylie Cosmetics is more on the high-end side, but then high-end makeup is also different to luxury makeup. Luxury makeup would be Chanel, Dior, etc.
Actually, all of those perfectly fit in the different measures that you have. So a perfect example would be Kylie Cosmetics. It's basically the real core difference is the value of Kylie's name, her brand, the idea that she markets it.
Is it very similar to Goodwill in general? Goodwill. In accounting terms, you have Goodwill is the amount that name has.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, that's actually a pretty good association, yeah. The idea that there's a value towards a brand, that is basically the amortized value of the additional value that a company can have above what is expected within its accounting. So actually, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, like Coca-Cola. You can buy Coca-Cola, if you buy Coca-Cola without any factories, without any product, you'll still pay a lot of money because you have the Coca-Cola name associated to it.
Exactly that. And because it's Coca-Cola, they are able to charge a slightly higher price, or they sell a slightly higher quantity in the market that delivers them an additional profit. And that little slice compared to their competitors is called a brand rent. But yeah, that's the thing, is that they call it a quasi rent, the exact same thing, because it's temporary often. Like a lot of these brands, they don't actually last for a long time. And you also, the other factor of a quasi rent is that you need to pay to maintain it. So Coca-Cola, obviously to maintain the fact that it is Coca-Cola, they invest shit tons of money into marketing to make sure that people go, oh, it's Coca-Cola. Everyone remembers the Coca-Cola wars from back in the day, where they used to have competitions between them and Pepsi. There's a huge thing in like the 80s and 90s between Pepsi and Coca-Cola about a blind taste test. And the key point there, actually, that shows the brand rent is the blind taste test when they were comparing Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Because Pepsi didn't have the brand and Coca-Cola did. And when you compared the actual effective product, often a lot of people liked Pepsi very much. Perfectly fine, it's a good drink, whatever. But the difference that resulted in the sales was the brand. And that was a key thing that they were pointing out. So it is like I wouldn't say it's an informational asymmetry, but it's generally like a marketing-led brand value rent. And usually these brands can be associated to quality or like the value of the service, things like that. You can see it in luxury brands as well, but the easiest comparison to understand a brand rent would be like different types of Coca-Cola or Kylie Cosmetics. But the key point to understand is that they are temporary. Kylie obviously has to put in quite a lot of other work in maintaining her own brand. She has to remain popular, things like this. She has to push the product in the right way and to market it correctly. That takes a lot of actual effective cost to maintain it. This rent is also potentially temporary because I don't know what happens. It's social media. I will get cancelled at some point. Everyone will get cancelled at some point. Do something stupid. You have to apologise on the internet. It's a natural course of life. I'm sure Kylie will have something similar to that at some point.
Oh, non-stop. There's a
Constantly.
reason why I'm saying you shouldn't buy anything with the Kardashians anyways. Can I give a good example as
go
well? Oop.
These flies, man.
So, you remember the perfume I bought when I was in Poland, the Pani Walewska perfume?
Yeah, the communist perfume.
Yes. So Pani Walewska was a set of cosmetics that was popular during communist Poland. Pani Walewska, if you don't know, she was the lover of Napoleon Bonaparte.
I love Napoleon. It's a good vibe.
To be honest, we should do an episode on how we love it and how it actually goes with our life a bit.
Honestly, that's like a whole segment. Actually, to be honest, we're going to circle back to that later. I'm putting that in. We're doing that later. That'd be funny. It's related to the wedding, actually.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, Pani Walewska, she was the lover of Napoleon Bonaparte, and she was associated with French aristocracy. She was an opera singer. And in Poland, during communist times, we didn't have any international brands. We didn't have Gucci, we didn't have Dior, because it was communism Poland. So we only had the local brands in place. Pani Walewska perfumes were very popular, and they were very expensive for the time. So if anyone had Pani Walewska, I'd be like, oh, you're so bougie. Oh. However, when communism was extinguished from Poland, the international brands started coming in. And that brand, Pani Walewska, was completely neglected and was let off the market. So the idea is that Pani Walewska was a bit more expensive because it had some sort of good brand name to it, and it also had a good media perception. Not media, but some sort of good marketing perception that it was French, that was based with aristocracy. It completely left as soon as the new perfumes came in place, which were the novelty at the time. That being said, I went to the store the other day when I was in Poland and I bought a Pani Walewska perfume for 40 zł, and it is one of my best perfumes ever. Please buy Pani Walewska, bro.
Honestly, it smells very nice, and if Pani Walewska actually smelled like that, I understand why Napoleon cheated her, to be fair. It's a lovely smell, it's really quite nice. Actually, pay us for that. I'm mentioning this shit for free, this is ridiculous. But
yeah, so basically the idea is that it had some sort of goodwill to it and it had a good association, a good market perception to it.
But exactly as you say, as soon as communism went down, competitors entered the market and they went for the same brand rent.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that it's a quasi-rent. It's temporary because a competitor can just spend a ridiculous amount on branding and position to then try and overtake you. Happens a lot with luxury goods as well. Like these things run in cycles, run in trends. You have to stay on top of the trends. You need to invest in designers. You need to invest in marketing. The rent isn't free. You don't get it because of the position of the good itself. The only time a rent does come without any direct investment is the land. It's the only pure rent. That's why they call it a pure rent compared to a quasi-rent under Marshall anyway. So no, exactly. Some things can just, by the force of trends, stop being cool, or otherwise you can have competitors enter the market that are cooler and they spend more money on marketing, or just maybe someone cool uses it. Happens all the time. But this little temporary additional profit that they make is exactly that. It's temporary. It's quasi. The other ones that you get with this in terms of like trends is also network rent, which is kind of interesting. So this comes from like the social media companies. There's a perfect example of this. So these companies, they can actually derive decent levels of value and profit from running a network. A network in the definition that the value of it is increased by the number of persons using it. So a social media with one person on it is fucking useless. Clearly, it's not exactly social, is it, either? So a social media is mostly only valuable to persons because other members of their extended network are on this social media, or people that they actually give a shit about and want to listen to on this network. But because of that, there's a great strategy that is used by these companies who are developing networks, and social media networks in particular, which is that they run at a complete loss almost for huge amounts of time. Because if it costs nothing to the user, it's much easier for them to acquire more users. And as you acquire more users, the value of the network, when you do monetize it, increases. There's an eventual tipping point, and it comes from Krugman and Doktorov, another guy as well, who he based his work on. And the entire cycle is the idea that you run at a loss, you agglomerate major users, then you try to extract specifically by pandering to your business customers. And Doktorov, he suggests then that it enshittifies until it dies, and Krugman just says it enshittifies to a steady state. But enshittification is then basically the whole idea that this thing that was given for free, these networks, often eventually they then go, right, well now it's time to charge the rent, to actually charge money for the service, to get money from it. And then everyone goes, well, it's now shit. It's shit relative to its position before, which was in itself a marketing strategy by being free. The entire idea is that the network is only valuable because of the mass of people on it. And people stay on it because the marginal benefit that they generate from having other connections on there is greater than the marginal cost that they experience of, say, just annoying features. Often it's not the case that many people actually directly pay for a social media, but often they interpret a physical cost in terms of the shitty ads that pop up. I completely lost where I was then because our camera died in the heat yet again. If anything, this camera has become enshittified. This is what you really experience when you're seeing, say, Facebook, which has now just become an absolute slop posting nightmare, filled with adverts and dodgy crap. This is what you also see from YouTube, where it's already built up a network value in terms of the number of users who use it daily, the number of creators who show up because the users are already there. There's like a lock-in effect almost, that YouTube is where you get distribution. And now the minimum ad length is what, 30 seconds, and then you have 2 ads and it's unskippable and it's horrendous. Like, how am I supposed to eat YouTube? I've got to wait here for 30 seconds and wait till the skip button shows up. It's just annoying. Well, also a great one that Krugman ran an example was with Uber. The idea that they were originally leading on a loss until they could get drivers and users to download the app. Drivers themselves were actually generating a decent revenue before this, and the users as well noticed that they had quite cheap prices on Uber, so loads of people went on Uber. Now, after that, slowly they've moved into a dynamic pricing system where it will judge you based on what other applications that you use and what prices you've accepted on Uber before. It'll even consider the weather on the day to decide what to charge you. It also does a similar thing for the drivers even. We're having a nice chat with a chap when we were driving back from Zurich Airport. What did he say? I think it was they run dynamic pricing with an AI system that runs between 10% of the ride fare up to about 50% in some cases. And so I think we had paid, 50 quid for this taxi ride home, and he was receiving something like 24 franc. And it was like an hour's drive as well. It was ridiculous.
Especially for Switzerland, because Swiss prices, like we would have expected usually to pay 70 franc minimum. The other issue on that point was that there was a discount, which we didn't take anyways because it took us long to get it, for 30 francs, remember? Mm-hmm. But rather taking the Uber fees away, let's just completely take the driver fees away.
And that's the problem. Once the drivers became reliant on the revenues from Uber, that they were full-time drivers with Uber, they were vendor locked. And so after that, of course, the switch is difficult. The last point I want to make on enshittification is strictly about the idea that they can extract permanently. And the key point of the video, which is quasi-rent. Enshittification is a quasi-rent because network economics has a lot of intricacies that are not correctly modeled in some of these formal designs of enshittification as part of network economics. Strictly the idea that you can have cascading failures in networks as well. And it's very easy to see how this enshittification usually leads to dead social media firms, because you can probably name 4 dead social medias right now. Let's go for it. Name it. MySpace, Vine, BBM. Oh,
there we go.
Oh, that's
I'll get your BBM, yeah?
Give me your BBM, babes, yeah? What are you saying, B? Or Yik Yak. Anyone who entered university at my age as well had Yik Yak probably in the UK.
What the fuck is Yik Yak?
It was a whole meme. It was so funny. You just shit post on there. It's so stupid. It was like an anonymous posting board for like the entire university. You could just ruin it. It's so funny.
In Poland, we have Nasza Klasa.
Yeah? Ah. But basically, a lot of these social media firms, they have an improving value of their network because they set their marginal pricing at 0. That allows the user base to naturally grow. People usually agglomerate to social media platforms not only where there is one person who they find vaguely interesting. So it's not about, say, a core influencer moving who has 1 million followers. It's usually based on the strength of the connections between the nodes, which is very odd. So, like, you don't usually move there because Kim Kardashian is on a new social media. That has a minor effect. The strongest effect is usually having at least 2 of your friends on a piece of social media and the reference from them. That usually works the best. Now, in the case that a social media platform becomes uncool, all you need to do is to go into tightly clustered networks that already exist and then run distribution at those small networks to get small groups in. That's usually how you destroy existing networks and overtake as an incumbent. And so if you run on that structure, like a guerrilla marketing campaign targeted on existing networks. So, perfect example. If you wanted to make a brand new social media that was going to take on Facebook, it's already fucked. Let's be real. Facebook sucks. But imagine you want to take it on directly. Well, what did Mark Zuckerberg do? He did it almost perfectly. He went through the Harvard network that already existed. That was the original founding of Facebook. And that is a perfect proof point for the network economics of cascading failure. Because you go on a new social media and you abandon an old one because your friends and your most relevant contacts are already on there. And it spreads virally at that point. That's why they call it virality, because it has like vectors of spread. So the actual value of enshittification, where you jump your prices all the way up to the roof and scam people almost with it feels like a scam anyway. After it's been free for so long and you ram the prices up, you add stupid loads of ads, you add prices for verification. Isn't there like a $60 a month or something to be verified on Instagram now?
I don't know if it's that high, but yeah, you have to pay for verification. You used to earn being verified. It used to be an achievement, and now anyone can buy it.
Stupid, dumb. That's it is completely ridiculous. And that's the thing, is that you can see what happened there with Instagram overtaking Facebook in terms of viral growth. and how networks compete when they're substitutable. So if you have Facebook and Instagram growing within one ecosystem, usually people only have a set amount of time that they dedicate to one social media network. And so what you find is a dominance of one network, and it's based on the agglomerative growth of certain networks. And so the thing is that if you do Inshitify under Krugman's regime that he put up, it doesn't actually work, because you actually end up getting cascading network failure. And that's the interesting part, that the social media firms themselves overvalue the integrity of their network because they undervalue and underweight the probability of a cascading network failure. And the thing is that if you look at the history of social media, you can clearly see this. The investors put shit tons of money into MySpace, shit tons of money into all of these firms, and yet they still failed as soon as they turned on any switch that wasn't that cool, or they were met with a network that had a more aggressive spread mechanism. So Facebook killed MySpace is a good example. Instagram was killing Facebook, and then Zuckerberg did the smart thing and bought it. I don't know how smart it was, because he then Inshitified Instagram, and now you have TikTok, which is killing Instagram, even though Instagram just took all the reels. But can we be so real? I'll be honest, even the quality of content on Instagram is Inshitified. Like, some of it is hilarious, but if you compare TikTok to Instagram Reels are fucked. They are completely fucked. All you get is absolute brain rot or like straight up racism. That's just your For You page, though. It's pretty horrendous. Like, honestly, it's really, really bad. No matter what you do, open up Facebook Reels right now and tell me I'm wrong, because like, it is usually ass.
You curate your For You page on Instagram. Facebook always is worse, because Facebook, let's be honest, who uses Facebook? Boomers, grandmas, people that read the Daily Mail, etc., etc. Not that there's anything wrong with the Daily Mail.
There is something wrong with the Daily Mail. Fuck the Daily Mail. Daily Mail is like one of the pro-Brexit papers filled with old people who think that the entire country's going to shit.
I agree, but that's not my point. My point here is people that like to commentate on things that are just in the news, and that's all they do. These are people that watch daytime TV. These are boomers. I'm not here to slander the Daily Mail. I have my own opinions about it, but that's not my point.
In my opinion, the Daily Mail's shit. That's my opinion.
Wait until Daily Mail starts covering you, and then they'll be like, oh, he's such a great guy.
Oh, yeah, but they'll just call me some, like, woke lefty, like, crybaby or something.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
Like, they won't have anything nice to say. And my favourite thing about the Daily Mail, well, actually, it's what is terrible. You know how Jamie Lang, like, I love watching the Newly Parents podcast. I like Jamie Lang. I love Sophie Habu. The comments that Jamie Lang gets under the Daily Mail, have you read them?
No. How bad are they?
They're terrible. He has a whole like meme section about it, about how bad they are. Do you want me to read you some very quickly?
Actually, yes. This is valuable content. Give me a go.
The Lang couple seem to spend a lot of time not being parents. Crikey, if the woman's lips were any bigger, you'll be able to use them as a flotation device if stranded at sea. Honestly, gets so much worse, but do you want to hear this one?
These are getting so bad. Go on.
He should be sent to actual trenches in the Donbass region. He wouldn't last 5 minutes. What did this guy do to you? Nothing wrong. He's actually a lovely man, it seems like.
The guy just makes a very pleasant podcast.
Also, I love candy kittens. You can't go fucking wrong.
They're pretty nice, actually. Jamie, give us a $5, we mentioned it. I'll stick the fucking PayPal in their bio. But no, he seems like a nice enough bloke. It's a very cute podcast. They're not doing anything wrong. And I don't know why, but these lot, I swear to God, right, you only get comments like this from boomers, people who are terminally online, or just people who are generally sad in their lives. I think the best way to interpret these comments is that these people just have probably fundamentally shitty lives. Happens all the time, I think.
Can I be honest with you? Yeah. These are what we have as modern day Redditors. These are equivalent of the boomers.
Yeah.
That's literally the best example.
I don't know why. Like, dude, you own a house and you live through the greatest generation of free money that ever existed. Why are you spending all day moaning? Just sell your house and go on a cruise, for Christ's sake. Cheer up. Jesus.
All right, do you want to do your final point on enshittification before we move on to the next?
I actually had a really good thought on enshittification when our camera died again of temperature, which is...
It's 38 degrees now.
It's 38 degrees.
It's way too hot.
Bro. which is the recent influencer apocalypse, which has not really come up in the mainstream that much, but if you go like deep down the trenches, you can hear a little bit about it. Which is, if you notice from your largest creators that you might follow, you'll notice the amount of branded work that they're doing is increasing quite heavily. And it's strictly because if you look at the effect of an influencer, their network effect is very similar to the motives of an Uber or one of these other social media firms, which is that they agglomerate a value of decent users, and then of course there is an extraction point where they need to generate funds from it. And of course if they overshill, people don't want to follow them, and so their follower growth plateaus off, whereas they are trying then to maintain a decent standard of living by selling products and doing ad placements. And so if you take a look right now as well, because of the number of people who've basically, like, it's not enshittified, but they're trying to generate a revenue from the following, which, to be honest, if it is a career, you know, they're supposed to, it is their job, realistically.
You need to make money somehow. That's what we are all trying to do, let's be honest.
It's real, you know, it's valid. But, like, so many of them are trying to do it at the same time. It seems as if the pricing per piece of any influencer marketing seems to be decreasing, and the volume at which they have to market things is going massively up. I think the only ones who avoid that are mostly the influencers who run their own brands, and they do it in a creative way.
Grace Beverly.
Oh, Grace Beverly is a legend.
I love Grace Beverly. It's a whole thing. She follows him on TikTok, and I'm so incredibly jealous. Bro, I've been a Grace Beverly stan since day one. I wear Tala nearly every day.
That is true.
I am a huge fan of the productivity method. I love her.
And from a man's perspective, I must admit, I do value Tala for. I don't know why, but it just does something to the batty. It's just fantastic.
It's not in the batty, it's the boob job top.
Oh, that's Grace Bev. Honestly, don't get me wrong. Grace Bev runs my Amex like she's HMRC. Like, I just see a line item of Grace Bev and it says, "Oh, Jesus Christ, what's happened to my bank balance?" But then she shows up the next day wearing it. I'm like, fair trade. There we go.
The best thing is my brother, since he's coming to Switzerland, we obviously order everything to the UK because otherwise we'll be paying crazy import fees to Switzerland. So I took advantage of the Tala sale and I got myself new Tala.
She loves it. It's like,
I love it. It's my favorite thing ever.
It's about like, in her actual outfit she wears day to day, it's probably like 60% Tala, probably.
No, I actually think it's quite more. The difference is it's been so incredibly hot outside right now that you can't. I'm just walking around with nothing. Let's be honest.
Full nudity maxing. Yeah.
I'm not even joking. This isn't even like oh, I'm walking around it. No, it's just so hot in winter, especially on the days we go to the office with my moon boots. Tala always.
Yeah.
Now to the gym. To be honest, I have a few Tala pieces that I wear in the summer, but it's just too hot for clothes right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say it's 70% Tala on an everyday basis.
Honestly, it's valid. Also, they do great stuff. But that's the thing, is that like it seems like there's like a bifurcation now in influencers that have their own brand and they do it in a very organic way that doesn't seem too penetrative, like over shilly, because it's like their own thing. It's a creative process and they do it very organically and it's very well. A good example would be Grace Bev, the way that she actually works behind the scenes and how she's developing the things. I think that's a really interesting way to do it. And of course, like that's her persona, that she's like this creator who's running these businesses and she does it fantastically.
She's a businesswoman that is just showing how it is to run a business.
Yeah, she's a businesswoman who does TikTok, not a TikToker who does a business.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it works really well. Another good example would probably be Miles. Miles is good as well. He does his brand. I think he's probably done it pretty well because he doesn't shill something else. He's talking about how he does his own product. He actually did a recent one, and I think it was quite interesting about the actual dynamics of the market of wool. And maybe it's just because I'm boring and I like finance, but I found that really interesting. I quite like that.
I quite like that as well.
Yeah.
Also, I do love Miles's adverts. They're all really high quality. They're all really funny. Have you seen the one on the linen?
Oh, it's quite
with
good.
the Schooner. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Schooner.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it.
See, that's the thing. I think that does also really, really well. But a lot of other creators, you see that they're like, they do the opposite, where they're reliant on the external deals. And you can see that clearly then it doesn't come across as organic. And you can see clearly that their follower growth has been constrained. This is also a function of enshittification and a network rent. The value of themselves is the amortized value of the purchasing power of all of their followers. That's really how it would work. Effectively, if you want to buy an influencer's page, that would be the value at which you buy it. That would be how you do it.
I have to say, don't get me wrong, I'm not an influencer marketing expert or anything like that, but the best way you can really be an influencer and still make money off of brand deals, but still keeping your integrity intact, is genuinely just promoting products that you actually like. Isabel Lorna, another great example. She does a lot of brand deals, a lot of them, but you can tell she uses them all the time.
That's exactly it. There's got to be like a quality filter, and that really kind of defines, again, it's very similar to the process of enshittification. There's like a quality filter. There is a set level. And so I think with an influencer is partially like an integrity. So Isabel Lorna as well, she runs a successful marketing business at the back of it. She does other elements as well. But when she does do a brand deal, it is clearly on brand and it fits relatively organically within the content. And so it works very, very well. You can tell that that's a product that she'd actually use. But then you also see the other creators who clearly are stalling out and have a backlash from it because it's not organic. They just take the deals that show up in the inbox, basically. Yeah.
An example of Isabel Lorna doing really good on-brand brand deals, for example, Odd Muse. Odd Muse.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know Odd Muse used to be a client of her marketing agency?
Oh, that's quite cool. Okay.
And the way she got in touch as that client is because she genuinely enjoyed the products. The other one is Porsche. Porsche makes sense because she always said save the pennies and the Porsche will buy itself. It's not like she's promoting some other company just because they offered it to her. She stayed on brand and she stayed true to herself. That's why she is shilling a lot. But it doesn't feel inorganic. It doesn't feel forced. It's genuine stuff that she likes. That's why I started tagging a few companies that I would like to work with because I just genuinely like their products in my stuff.
That's a fair point. It's basically like a learning lesson on how to avoid becoming enshittified as a creator. So I guess on that one, that's the kind of limiting factor for me because the stuff I like is really quite expensive or really kind of niche. So it'd be like the Fudge curse. Literally, there's a Fudge curse and she's now got it as well because she is Mrs. Fudge. If you walk into a shop, right, with me, and I touch something, it can be just another different type of t-shirt. If it's the one I like, it will be 10 times the price of something else, and I don't know why. The entire family has this curse. If you go into a shop and it's the one that we like, it is the most expensive one.
Yeah.
And not for any specific reason. It's not like it's branded or silly or extravagant or anything else. So there's another t-shirt on the rack, and I don't know why, but we just naturally agglomerate to the one that's slightly expensive. I do like really high quality things as well, so I like, like really nice, good cashmere. I like things like this. I like good shoes. I like Santoni pieces, things like this, I like, my granddad actually, not an economist, but gives fantastic piece of financial advice that is even actually replicated within Adam Smith, which is you only really need two quite good things, and if you're going to spend money on something, it's on two things: good shoes and a good bed, because you spend about half your life in each, depending on how often you're at home working from home, but there you go. And it's a very fair point. So I also very much like my shoes, strictly because as well, even in Adam Smith, there's a good mention about, not in Adam Smith, I think it was a misattribution to Adam Smith. I think it's from Terry Pratchett. It's the false economy of buying cheap shoes. And if you buy cheap shoes and you buy, I think his example is that you spend a shilling on shoes every day. Let's just give them modern equivalent.
It's basically cost per wear that you're trying to say.
Almost, but like you imagine that you go and buy a pair of shoes, like work shoes, and you have to wear them every day, and you spend 50 quid on them. You get, a reasonable pair, and you wear them out after 6 months because everyone knows they fall apart. And also they're like plastic manufacture, so you can't repair them. You just have to go buy another pair for 50 quid. Whereas if you buy a pair of like Santonis
or Churches,
Churches are bloody lovely as well. Something like this, right? A really good pair of loafers. I got a couple of from Magnani. They're very nice as well. If you wear them out, you go to the cobbler. Don't get me wrong, they cost like £300 to £1,000 in some of these cases, right? In the most ridiculous end. But in the case you wear them out, you go to the cobbler and you give him 30 quid and you fix them. Sometimes even a tenner, depends where you go. And so the thing is then, is that in terms of a false economy, it's either 2 pairs of 50 quid pairs of shoes every single year for the rest of your life. Otherwise, you get yourself a pair of really good ones, you get them fixed all the time. It makes a hell of a lot of financial sense over the life of it. It's a false economy that's attributable to lower cost items. Shoes in particular, really good one. Another one would be cars. You buy a really, really cheap car for no reason, and it just you then realise the gearbox doesn't work and it breaks down all the time. You don't spend more on the bloody maintenance, just get a proper car. You might as well spend a little bit more to make sure it's in a good condition for a longer period, so you're avoiding the other associated costs to it. Makes more sense. Anyway, that's enough of my bloody ranting, because I can go on about this stuff for a long, long, long time.
The other topic I wanted to talk about is sexism in the workplace, because I am absolutely fatigued. I am exhausted with what I had been dealing every single day. That's why I kind of wanted to do this podcast, because I no longer want to deal with it. I'll be honest. I want to get some agency back and control back in what we do without dealing with twats. Let's be honest.
That's pretty valid. It is pretty valid. The thing is that, like, I've heard the rest of it in the background, and even I'm just like, this don't work for these people. Quit. Get the fuck out of it. We'll do anything else rather than that. So
it's tiring. Like, the mental load and what I go through every single day, I've only noticed now, I'll be honest, and I've been dealing with this for years. This month has been hard because I realized that the way I have been treated, it only like came down on me recently, and I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I don't want to deal with it anymore. So I thought it'd be nice to bring out a few situations that I dealt with, because why not make content out of a bad situation?
In the worst situation, at least you get good content, and I can tell you, these are pretty bad. Let's get into it. What you got?
Right, I'm obviously not going to name any names because I don't want to be sued. Let's talk about firstly conferences. Within the crypto space, especially within the AI and crypto space, we have annual conferences that we go to. So we usually go to ETHCC, Token 2049. They're really fun events.
It's one of the biggest benefits of Web3 in general, to be honest. There's a bunch of young dudes who like having beers in, and they organise conferences in kind of nice places. Honestly, it's half the benefit of being in the industry. The rest of the industry is pretty crap. That part's very fun. Unless...
I want to first talk about how men approach you. When people approach me, they shake my hand. They shake my hand so hard to show that they're alpha. And in the last conference I went to, I physically started reacting to it because I got pissed off. Why are you trying to crush my hand on purpose? Is this a point that you're trying to prove? And this is a minor thing. They don't do this to anyone else, because I've always asked Henry, the same person that shake my hand, they'd be like, no, it's fine, completely fine. But I know that it's hard. And it's to prove a point. It's to show that someone's masculine. Everyone automatically also assumes that I'm a business development girl or a marketing girl. Not that there's anything wrong with being in those positions, absolutely not. But they hate to see a woman in power. They hate to see it. And then as soon as I say, oh, I was in this and this position, oh, really? Oh, that's surprising.
That's the thing. They look at her gone off because of the position that she was in before. And it's really a backhanded compliment in the worst kind of way. They go like, really? You can do that? That's kind of the way it came off a lot of the times, even when I'm just standing there just like, yeah.
When people also thought I was confident and wanted to do some sort of, I'm going to use a buzzword, synergy,
AI.
First thing that they asked me is whether I'm planning to have a family.
That's actually so real.
And that's not even joining the point that I'm going to make next. But they're obviously checking if I'm going to have a family, just to see if I'm going to run off and go on maternity leave at any point or anything like that. And a good example at a conference. So
you want me to give that story though?
Yeah, we're going to give the story. So I'm not going to say what conference we were at, because I know this person does view my stories. He basically... We met him outside of an event at a conference, and he was telling us, oh, hey guys, how are you doing? We were like, yeah, we're good. We were just about to go up. He then said, oh man, I met so many bitches last night. There are so many here. Also, this guy is incredibly fat and ugly, by the way. I'm sorry, he is. He's genuinely like a disgusting thing to look at. And I'm not saying that to be rude. I'm just genuinely being honest. This guy doesn't shower. This is what I'm talking about. He was like, yeah, I met so many bitches last night. And oh my God, I got this hot woman here.
Oh, we were sat down at this one conference, which we won't name. And he goes, and he's a bit tipsy. And he goes like, oh, I've got this sexy bitch on her way over. It's like, yeah, she's super hot, and, we're going to do this. I'm like, number one, this is a business conference. Don't get me wrong, crypto is a bit wild, but, like, even we were just like, maybe not the time and place, and we're like, oh right, okay, do we just shuffle away now or whatever? It was very odd.
That being said, crypto guys do like to take advantage of prostitutes quite a lot.
Yes,
so there's nothing unbelievable on that end. So he basically made her out to be a prostitute. And he kept on going on to every other guy in there that he's got this hot bitch coming over. The girl comes up and everyone's looking at her funny because nobody really wants to talk to a prostitute at a business event because they don't want to, especially the women, they don't want to look like ones. Sometimes some crypto events do invite women to be there just so that the event looks like it has women. And as much as there's nothing wrong with that, there's so many little women in the industry in the first place that if you start interacting with them, people will start thinking you are one as well rather than taking it seriously.
That's the problem.
Yeah, not that there's anything wrong with that. Like if I was at any other situation, 100%. But then no one takes me seriously in a business context if I do intermingle with them, even just to have fun. You can't if you want to make business.
Do you want me to throw in a...
Because people are sexist. That's the reason.
Do you want me to throw in a piece of economics here?
Yeah.
Economics sidetrack. That's almost like the market for lemons. Basically, at these conferences, there are a lot of women who are very successful in the industry and work very, very well. Some of the less decent organizers of these events often then are dodgy, small little men who can't speak to real women anyway, and they engage in prostitution and other pieces or escorting. And so they'll bring a girl with them to a conference, things like this, to try and look cool to a bunch of other dudes who've never touched a woman. The difficulty then is that if you are there legitimately conducting business and you already know that there is a market where there are a number of sex workers available in the industry, and obviously there's a bifurcation of like the people who are like just kind of crazy wild people who don't care and they're off partying and they have $1 billion from a stupid coin from scamming people, and they don't care about that perception. And then also legitimate, like say a lot of the financialized elements of the industry is now integrating into the banks. Obviously it's quite a bad look to see that you're at some party with, you know, this kind of situation going on, and so a lot of the people who are kind of in these conferences, they don't know which one you might be, and that's a legitimate, you know, adverse selection situation. And so a lot of women who are in the industry want to leave because they are misappropriated and mistreated or considered to be potentially sex workers, and so then they naturally go, this industry is full of assholes and I want to leave it.
Yeah.
And on the other side of it, then it's just a better incentive for there's no women in the industry, and then it shows up. And it's a horrendous destructive cycle, mostly perpetuated by small, sweaty little virgins who've just made their first dollar scamming people. That's usually the ones who have this, who then want to use that money to try and pay for a reputation that they could never earn in their own right, which is that a woman might even like them. And that's really what you see. And to be honest, the best way to treat that is to see that these people are just pretty sad people and they're ruining the industry.
I have a funny story. I don't know if you want to include that or not. If you don't want to include it, then we'll crop it out. But we're obviously not going to name any names. There was this company that we were sharing a house with.
Oh, yes.
We don't like this company at all. We think they're cunts, and we have a personal problem with them, let's be honest.
Very much so. It's very like a small man syndrome operated company.
That being said, we're not going to go any details. However, this company hosted an event. They paid for women to come from another country, bought a bus full of women to that event. All of these women were Eastern European. I believe, in my personal opinion, half of them looked underage.
They look kind of young. It was really dodgy, dude.
Very young to a crypto event, and they were paid by the hour to be there. Obviously, they weren't paid by the hour to...
Half of them didn't speak English. I honestly gave the vibe of literal human trafficking. It was so fucked, and we bailed. It was dodgy as shit.
We were joking that it felt like Epstein Island. This is what we're dealing with. Like, this is why we're not a fan of this industry anymore, because this is how women have been treated. Women have been placed like products by some of these people. That being said, not every event is like that. Some events are very fucking fun. But that one was the extreme of it, and they were disgusting. And also, I don't like any of these people personally, so everyone can fuck off.
To be honest, I think this is a great precursor for the chat about crypto assets in general, because I've worked in the space, you've worked in the space as well. I'm sick and tired of it. I think the majority of the projects in the space are genuinely terrible.
They're rug pulls. They are rug pulls.
There's a shitload of them that are just complete nonsense, and often a lot of them are skirting the edges of regulation with very dodgy agreements. Won't go into too much detail, but I think a lot of them are very dodgy. The thing is that when I first saw the industry for it, I thought it was legitimately interesting. There was money in the industry, there was a lot of innovation there, and there was like an ideology to it, the idea that there would be decentralized finance, that
So do I.
these institutions that currently sit in the world of finance, that basically, as we said at the start of the video, they garner a rent based on their position. They are perpetually making a supernormal profit because of how they stand in the economy, based on a regulatory moat around them. You know, they have a bank license that you can never do. You can't really go compete to be a bank right away. Or in terms of payments like Visa and MasterCard, these companies have a regulatory moat. They have a network integration, and they are making huge sums of money as a rent almost. It's not a valuable service. And so when I saw the industry originally, I saw a technology that was potentially really interesting and liberating. It was a technology that had a lot of innovation, had a lot of really smart people with quite a good ideology behind it to liberate people from these rents that they effectively pay in financial services, to dodgy mega corporations and super banks, or also to payment providers and things like this, when in reality you can have custody of your money and send it to anyone. I really liked that, and I thought that was really, really interesting, and that's why I liked it. And of course I like economics, and this was the forefront of where the new money supposedly was. And then during my tenure in that industry, it just all became dog shit. All of it became dog shit. I met all the people behind the scenes. I've met many people at many rungs of the value chain of crypto, and it was all shit. I didn't meet many people whatsoever that I'd legitimately respect as entrepreneurs in the space.
Yeah,
not many. There's a rare few, but they're also at this point almost migrated out of the industry. And it's like adverse selected for weird little sexists, scammers, and things like this at this point.
That being said, going back to sexism in the workplace, that's the reason why crypto in specifically is a hard place to be as a woman.
It is hard, yeah.
Secondly, I had a meeting with a former client of ours, and I was in a meeting room with them. There were 6 men around me, and I was the only one that didn't speak Swiss German. The first 30, everyone knew I didn't speak Swiss German. The first 30 minutes of that meeting was in Swiss German, which I think is incredibly rude. If someone doesn't understand the language, you should be speaking in a language that everyone can commonly understand.
Before people attack us, notably, the majority of these people did speak English. The presentation itself was given in English. Martina was there to give the presentation in English in an office that predominantly speaks professionally English. And so the idea that you should speak the language, things like this, understood, taken. Before anyone goes mad though, before anyone takes it out of context, strictly, this is in a professional environment that strictly spoke English, with a presentation in English to people who mostly spoke English and predominantly spoke English.
All of them spoke English.
In the office for an English presentation. So English was like de facto going to be the language spoken. And then despite a small amount of English being spoken, it then diverted immediately into Swiss German based on 2 people who couldn't speak Swiss German.
No, they could speak. Everyone could. I was the only one that couldn't speak Swiss German, and look,
it felt exclusionary for no reason.
It was exclusionary. That whole meeting was for 30 minutes in Swiss German. The first thing that they said to me in English was, "What are your qualifications?" Look, I don't speak Swiss German fluently, but I understood somewhat what they were saying because some of them were speaking High German, and High German is very easy to understand.
Yeah.
So I know they weren't asking anyone else for their qualifications. They just asked me, what are your qualifications? On a job that I was already hired or was already booked to do, and I was managing.
Yeah.
I was in charge of that project, and they just had the nerve to ask me in front of everyone, what are your qualifications?
They just don't do that to anyone else. I've never had that asked to me
Ever.
in my life, even when I've been the youngest in a room by 30 years, ever.
That being said, that was the first thing that was said to me. The rest of the meeting, I was completely ignored. And the only time they showed me any sort of respect was when I made a joke about when they were talking about sports. And I mentioned that I play tennis, which isn't even sexist, it's just classist at that point. Because they only showed me respect when I told them that I'm a very good tennis player. And that was it.
That's such a thing, though, because, like, sports like tennis or also skiing, it's one of those little, it's like a little litmus test for social class. It's literally, you know, the idea that in the UK it'd be very tacky if someone went up to you and goes like, did you have free school meals or not? No, they say simply in a networking event,
play tennis?
Do you ski? Do you like tennis? We should go play tennis. And they go, and it's like almost like a cultural filter for people who are suddenly within like a certain social class. It's like, it is a whole thing.
We might do a podcast episode about how my parents were treated as Polish people when I was playing tournaments in an English environment.
That's pretty bad.
So that was bad. And the last point I wanted to cover is when I was setting up a company, we were originally saying that everyone's going to have an equal share. And no, Martina, no, you're not going to have an equal share because you might get pregnant one day and you might have kids. I was not happy about that. I thought it was disgusting. So I have a few more stories to say. If you guys want to hear that, sure. Let's just move on straight to the next point. Our thoughts on Bitcoin. Maybe you start and I chime in.
There's two different ways to view Bitcoin. And there's Bitcoin as the technology and there's Bitcoin as an asset, which is very loose phraseology already. Bitcoin as a technology is vaguely interesting. Has a total cap limit of 21 million coins. They distribute themselves over a half-life. Each one is produced by mining blocks, which is to validate transactions using the 256 SHA process, the encryption mechanism that encrypts the transactions from senders to receivers. Now, that's cool. Very nice. Peer-to-peer money as a concept, very nice, cool, okay. I quite like that idea. I think I mentioned that earlier in the video about the mission that it was originally supposed to be. But the mechanism now behind that is not so great. So as a technology, firstly, it's slightly been superseded by alternate technologies in terms of the ability to speedily reconcile transactions and to own your money.
It's quite outdated. It's just outdated at this point. It was the first hero crypto asset, and now there's just so many others out there that are better. Like Ethereum, for example. I'm not saying it's the best one or anything, but that was the next competitor right after it because it runs on smart contracts.
Yeah, exactly. When you're thinking about the value of it, again, it's actually relevant to the value of any network. It's payment services are a network. You need to have people who send it and use it as a means of payment, and you also need to have people who accept it as merchants. They need to be able to take it and use it. That still is very much lacking. I like the idea that it was supposed to, be an alternate payment methodology that attacks Visa and these lot, but fundamentally it's a little bit too slow these days relative to its peers. It's a little bit too expensive. It takes so much time. The throughput isn't there. The Lightning upgrade is fine, but technologically it's very difficult to get people to embrace it because of the volatility. The point of money, so using it as an alternate form of money has a few core attributes in an economic sense, which is it is a store of value, it is a means of exchange, things like this. And so the thing is, as a store of value, everyone can see it, it's volatile as hell. It's not a very good store of value. By the time you accept the payment, it might be up or down by 5 or 10%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's the entire profit margin of some entire industry sectors. Second part, as a means of exchange, not that many people truly accept it yet. It's not perfect for that, and I don't see that really growing. And it seems like most people are treating it like an asset to store, like a digital gold, which is also a bit stupid, but I also don't like gold, to be honest, given that. So
we should do an episode on digital currencies backed by real life assets, like gold, etc. I have many opinions on that. Yeah, go on, carry on.
So the difficulty is, as a currency, Bitcoin is not functionally a currency. I'm a guy who's been in Web3, and so, I'm not going to sit here and slate the entire industry perfectly, but it just isn't a good currency. As an asset, it has some interesting attributes, mostly in its historical performance. But I think there it kind of ties back into my framework, and this is where I have a slight difficulty with it. So Bitcoin itself, with its hard cap of 21 million Bitcoins ever to be emitted, it has very limited supply that's emitted on a mining schedule based over the halving events and the rates of block rewards that are emitted. Basically, the supply of it hitting the market is reducing. A lot of people are holding it and clustering it. And in fact, a huge amount of people even lost their Bitcoins. Famous case from Wales, a man who tried to buy the local dump because he lost his Bitcoin wallet. His wife threw it out, some story like that.
On his ledger, right?
Yeah, exactly. He was moving houses and he dumped it, and then he tried to find it because it was worth something like $100 million, I think. It's quite funny. Anyway, the thing is that when you understand it like that, it is a highly volatile asset with a capped supply. It fits into my framework really well on a lottery asset and on my diagnosis that I cover for 1929 in an interesting way, which is on reference dependent utility, which we discussed last time. If you're below the reference, you find yourself becoming risk-seeking. You're looking for assets with small chances of very high returns, even though the expected return may be potentially negative. Interesting enough. Now, we already covered that in the last episode. Bitcoin does and did historically have extreme volatility, particularly when I was first playing around in Switzerland in 2017. That first run from 4K to 20K. Fantastic, great returns, and people made some real life-changing money. Same again when it did another run all the way up after that crash up to, I think it was 68K is top of that cycle. And then in the last cycle that only just finished in the last 12 months or so, all the way up to 120, was it 122, 125K? Whatever, doesn't even matter. But you can see the use of Bitcoin there. Not saying it's good, but what you find is that a lot of people who are participating in Bitcoin were young, unpropertied persons who were looking for a lottery asset. And Bitcoin then perfectly fits into the definition of how I covered 1929, because these lottery assets may be distributed from venues with the limited capacity. And if they have a limited capacity, a massive amount of inflow can cause reflexive price changes. Sounds very complicated. So it's 21 million Bitcoin. It has structural inelasticity in its supply, and the mining is obviously decreasing over time, so it's becoming less elastic. On top of that, the demand that then goes into it from these lottery assets, people seeking lottery assets, people who are looking to buy it, if enough of them buy it at the same time, they can reflexively move the price. If the price goes up because it's structurally inelastic, but it's seen as a financial asset, people read that as increased returns. More people go, Bitcoin's doing well and I'll buy it. Then more people show up, more people buy it when it has structural inelasticity, and then simply the price recursively goes up. It's not going up because of fundamental value, it's going up because of the increasing demand against inelastic supply. And I believe that's actually how it was designed, and that was the purpose of how it was designed. Now, when that happens, what you see is these huge price swings, and that was the point. That because the venue was small originally, the market cap of Bitcoin when it was 4K was very small. Market cap even at 60K was small enough that enough influx of people who wanted to speculate on an asset, it was fine. Because let's be real, even for the people who like Web3, the people who bought Bitcoin, they bought it for a return. They didn't buy it because they believe in their technology. And anyone who tells you that is usually in a bear market crying about why they lost so much money. They bought it for return, and a speculative return at that. Now, Bitcoin itself, then, as a lottery asset, has actually suffered from success. Strictly that because its market cap now is so high, the amount of inflow that you need to push its price up sufficiently that the returns look really good is ridiculous. I believe right now the market cap of Bitcoin is still over $1 trillion, which is wild. At the top, it was, I think, something like $1.7, $1.8 trillion. Now, the amount of money that you need to flow into this thing to derive the kind of returns that people are really looking for from this kind of asset in their actual use they have for it is obscene. And so what you end up seeing is these boom and bust cycles that continuously occur from that kind of demand. Lots of people flow in to try and buy an asset that they think might do very well for them. They're all below the reference as well. You can do an indicated study that people who own crypto en masse are broadly people without property and have below median asset wealth for their age category. Those are the people who buy crypto, which changes the way that you interpret the industry. Now, if all of them flow in, and it does do very well when it's very small, the 4K to 20K, the 20K sell-off is strictly because people were taking profits and taking money off the table. That's it. And the amount of profit that they actually need is based on a hurdle rate that they needed to get out. Now, the perception of when it starts to hit the top seems to be almost entirely psychologically coded based on a required return that these users want. And there's different cohorts of the people who are actually required users. So a guy who bought it for 4K, obviously when the price goes back up to 100K, he wants to sell and realize his gain because he missed out on the last time. Someone who just got in at 68K wants to get out 120K and double their money. The thing is, though, it becomes progressively more difficult to increase that value sufficiently that it looks exciting as a lottery asset. And anyone who's bought it to hold it for a long-term value hold, the way that you interpret it when you understand my framework is essentially that you're betting that continuously higher numbers of people will continue to be below the reference and want a lottery asset. That's fundamentally what Bitcoin is. It's a very easy access, globally saturatable lottery asset. Now, if that's the case, you obviously have the same kind of situation as me where you kind of fall out of love with the industry. And also on top of that, Bitcoin gets dominated by smaller tokens. That's why we saw in the last cycle you have these meme coins do incredibly well because they had very small amounts of supply and the amount of inflow that went into them was enough to recursively push their prices up to do great gains. Because then no one was playing with Bitcoin at that point. They dropped it. The returns weren't there that they really wanted. The lottery style returns. People started playing with the small stuff. This usually explains as well the cycle of when it goes. Usually they always say that Bitcoin peaks, then it's the alts, and then it's meme coins and nonsense. And last time, the alts didn't even rally. The supply was already cooked into the system. A lot of these tokens have emission schedules that massively inflate the circulation, which means that you need insanely higher amounts of money to actually pump it up. In fact, I believe the last calculation on that in the last bull cycle was something like there's $175 million in new unlocks occurring every single day from all projects that have pumped very well, and their unlock schedules that went across the time period. So then everyone played with the meme coins. And there were great cases of people making huge amounts of money, but the majority of people lost money, huge amounts of money. My point is that they were doing it rationally. And that's why I think Bitcoin is fundamentally not that great. Because when you understand the framework or the logic to it and the people who participate, the real story is that it's basically an inverse bet on the outcomes of an entire generation. I don't think that's really ideal. So if you want to even ignore the moral part, though, because it's so large now, the returns that those people actually want can't be found in Bitcoin. The only person who's left playing with this thing is Michael Saylor. That's really about it. It's failed at its core duty of what it really drives for people as a lottery asset now, because it got large enough. And people like Michael Saylor go, oh, it's going to change the world. These people have drank the Kool-Aid and they don't understand why these things are designed. The point is, it's a lottery asset. That's really it.
I don't think I have anything else to add anymore. I think you covered pretty much it. I stand on the same side as you. I think Bitcoin is outdated technology. There's nothing special about it anymore, and there are better coins. That being said, if we are in a bear market, and everything is kind of dead right now.
Everything just kind of sucks, dude. I think for the clip to take away from this one is that Bitcoin in reality is a lottery asset that is now large enough where it cannot deliver lottery returns. It fails at its core attribute, and most of its returns is basically a bet against an entire generation that is priced out of its own future and finds under reference-dependent utility a requirement to participate in risky assets. That's basically it.
I mean, I've sold all of my Bitcoin allocations, and if I'm going to buy anything now on the crypto market, it won't be Bitcoin. Don't listen to this as financial advice. Don't do what we do because...
Definitely don't. Look at the value of our podcast equipment, for Christ's sake. The camera doesn't even work and we're on a bench table with $20. Clearly, don't follow our advice.
Anyway, sir, let's talk a bit about behind the scenes. We have a wedding coming up. How is the wedding prep going? I heard you're so tired from planning the wedding.
Chat, I can't even lie. Get yourself a good wife like this, because she went in to do the wedding planning and literally just went, I want that, I want this, I want that, I want that, I want that, I'm doing this, I want this. And my only job was, yep. It's fantastic. Very nice.
He's done fuck all. But I kind of like it that way, because at least now the wedding is according to my taste. Because I'll be honest with you, anything I asked of him on the wedding, he always picked the ones that I didn't want. Like, for example, the cake. So I had this one initial idea with the cake, which is very nice, very elegant, very classy. And I was like, oh, do you like that? He said, yes, dear. And then we saw the cake that we're going for. And he was like, no, I prefer the other one. I'm like, are you fucking joking, yeah? No. So I ignored him anyways. It's better that way.
I've been taught the most useful phrase in the Polish language, which is tak kochania.
Exactly. So he
Yes,
has
dear.
done absolutely nothing with the wedding planning. I've done everything with my mother.
She's done a fantastic job.
And I'll be honest with you, this is going to be the fucking royal wedding of the century.
Can we be so real as well? Is that if we tried to do this wedding in the UK,
It'd be ridiculous.
bro would be bankrupt. I'd have to sell you guys all sorts of stupid courses.
VPNs.
Or I would be sponsoring NordVPN or some nonsense right now. Please buy them this fucking stupid thing. It'd be terrible.
You'd be shilling meme coins.
Oh my god. The prices, because we did look at the UK because we thought it could be kind of interesting. We looked for 5 minutes and it was dead. No
no
chance.
point.
Even for a venue. What was the venue? It was like 25 grand for a venue.
We're going to have the most beautiful wedding. The hint we're going to give is that we're getting married in the most beautiful castle ever.
But Hitler was also in.
No, don't say that. Don't say that. I would like to plan some content around the wedding, like doing it the day before and on the day. But I also don't want to be doing content on the day, so I want to plan it out and make it fun. Not because I want content for views, I want it for the memories, because I love the one TikTok that we did right before the wedding of the civil ceremony. It's so fun.
Cute.
So I want memories like that.
My thought was actually just then that loads of weddings right now are hiring a content creator, which sounds kind of funny. I'd like to do it. But I guess, are we going to do it ourselves? Because it's our wedding day and I don't know whether we're going to do anything on
We're going to do it ourselves. I'll tell you why. I was considering a content creator, but all the content creators I found in that area, I do a better job.
Oh, that's fair enough.
They are on a very very old iPhone, like an iPhone 8, and they're just doing it. I don't know why. Like,
Man said an iPhone 8. That's actually wild.
no, there's nothing wrong with having an iPhone 8, but if you're selling a professional service that still costs quite a lot of money, I expect
An
the
iPhone
best
8
quality.
and a big 2.6, bruv. No, I'm sorry, but if you have an iPhone 8 and a big 2.6, you've been praying that thing stays alive. I can't keep an iPhone alive for more than 2 years. I'll be honest, I'd probably actually pay them more if they've managed to keep the thing alive that long, because I wonder how much good care they take for the content.
Yeah.
That's mad.
The one thing that we need to do, I think I actually have everything planned. Like, I just got the cake finalized and the sweet treats table, which is going to be very lovely.
That was actually the best part of doing the wedding planning in general, or being an accessory to it, the tasting. Oh, Cake Lady did an absolute banger. I just got dragged down to a small village in Poland. I was just like, here's 15 pieces of cake, and I was just like,
It was so
that's
good.
the life.
Also, they're so beautiful. Like, it's
Oh,
an
yeah.
artisan. Like, the place we're getting our cake from. When you see the cake, you know what I mean. It's literally an artisan cake shop kind of thing. I've done all of the decorations. I've got sorted everything out. And the only thing is that people are taking piss with the hotel. Because we are getting all of our guests to stay in one singular hotel, because I'm not a huge fan of the area the castle is in. The city next to it is beautiful. It's a big city. I'm not going to say which one because it's going to bait it out. But the actual town, I'm not a huge fan of. So we're getting everyone to stay at this beautiful complex where there's ton of things to do during that wedding weekend, right? So no one really has to leave, basically, because there's hiking trails, there's some really nice alpacas there, you can go horse riding, gorgeous. But people are taking piss with the hotels because no one is telling me how long they want to stay in the hotel. They're just like, oh, have you sorted it? I'm like, bro, you haven't fucking told me the dates you're coming. And the hotel is waiting. So if you haven't fucking sent me what dates we're going to, tell me now.
It's a whole thing. It's like herding cats, to be honest.
It's annoying because it's like, I'm sorry. I hate the town that the place is in. If you want to stay there, rest in peace. But I don't want you to start telling me that Poland is shithole. Because it's not a shithole. That specific city is a shithole. The castle's beautiful and the complex is beautiful.
And all the people who work there are very lovely.
Yeah, they're very lovely, but
The town around it is not like the perfect place where you'd want, like, to probably hang out in Poland to get the best image of Poland. It's like a very rural area. To be honest, I'd say the same thing if I took someone like to the absolute backwoods in North Wales.
Yeah,
like, it's the same thing. Where do you imagine a castle is? It's not in the middle of the bloody town. It's like it's all the way out in the outskirts. So, like, You know, if I stuck someone in a caravan park in Rill as well, they'd probably be a bit irritated about it. That's kind of the vibe. Really.
You never, like this thing in Poland, we have the most beautiful castles. Beautiful castles.
Gorgeous, yeah.
But they're in the middle of nowhere. And there's not many hotels around. I mean, that's the thing. That area has such beautiful buildings. If you look at them individually, some of them. But then the high street is just fucking run down.
To be fair, though, they do still have a Żabka hot dog.
They do have Żabka hot dogs.
Given how much vodka I've been told is going to be at this wedding, I might need to like deliver a few Żabka hot dogs to keep me alive.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's the thing of the wedding prep. And now the one thing that's left is carry on practicing our first dance, because I do not want you to look like a child on the dance floor.
Yeah, I kind of shuffle around in my little suit looking like a penguin that shit itself.
He's not allowed to do that. He actually has to learn it properly, because I have the most beautiful dress and I want to have the most beautiful first dance, because I've also done a fuck ton of special effects for it to be perfect. So if you fuck around it and you fuck it up, I'm going to be pissed off with you.
See this attitude she takes from me right now as well, though? That gives you the best indication of her kind of dancing. She tries to take the lead, and it's like it doesn't actually work, and then she stands on my feet.
Because that's the thing. It's the same thing with tennis. When I got you to learn how to play tennis, you don't like to being told what to do if you're not good at it. If you get told what to do and you're automatically good at it, then you're happy. But if you get told what to do and then you don't do it right, you just get pissed off.
That's so real, actually. That is real.
And that's actually a whole entire thing of two types of students. You get the students that succeed and the students that fail. Students that succeed, this is the reason why I was a good tennis player. I always listened to the coach, but everyone else
fucking motivational podcast right now. My man's here like trying to sell the course like, this is how you succeed.
No, but then the people that were playing tennis and they were getting upset because the coach was telling them, oh, that's not right, they were shit at it, and they carried on being shit at it. Anyways.
Chat, do you feel motivated? Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the wedding prep. So, USA and Japan jointly intervene. USA and Japan.
I love Japan. Japan's a fantastic place.
USA and Japan jointly intervene in the yen markets. Thoughts?
There's a very interesting one with Japan that basically after it had its balance sheet recession that has run on since the 90s, since it had a huge financial crisis, it has run constantly zero interest rate policy in an idea to try and get its economy to reinflate. And because of that, a lot of interesting traders from around the world realized that you can borrow money in Japanese yen and it would be basically free. And so the world has done that, and they've borrowed about $20 trillion. Trillion with a T. And they've taken that money from Japan, they took it in yen, they swapped it to another currency to go buy any other asset that makes any other money. And they've been making fantastic amounts of money based on that. That's arguably actually some of the most inflated asset prices globally. But the difficulty now is that the yen just went up a little bit. And those positions are essentially short yen. Because, well, you've sold the yen to buy another currency. So if the yen goes back up whatsoever, even just a little bit, or if the yield in Japan, base yields go up just a little bit, it's enough to potentially margin call $20 trillion worth of capital. And so the USA, realizing that the majority of this money is borrowed to American companies, that's the majority of where this money has gone, American trading houses, American banks, and American companies, they've realized that if this shit goes bang, it will go bang big style. And so they intervened directly in the market with the Japanese to ensure that the yen was not getting slightly overvalued, because they were discussing the idea that they'd deviate away from a zero interest rate policy. Essentially, the entire situation is incredibly fragile because the extent of the borrowing that has been taken into foreign markets, and the fact that if you try and unwind this trade, you are pushing up the yen price, which means that everyone else is going to get margin called almost. That's the problem. That's the difficulty. All these people who took $20 trillion in debt are essentially betting against the yen. They didn't realize, though, that all of them doing that and selling yen to buy the other currencies to go buy their assets means that when you unwind this trade, you have to all go back and buy the yen. And everyone doing that at the same time is going to cause a problem. And that's where the Japanese and the Americans joined forces to intervene, because it seemed like someone was unwinding that trade. And it seemed like the yen was moving a little bit too high. And that's when things start getting scary. A similar situation happened in August 2024. I think it was a minor yield jump on Jap bonds. And the entire market went insane. VIX printed 60. VIX, for anyone who doesn't know, is the volatility index. It's basically like this. If VIX is up, shit is broadly bad. That's all you need to know. And VIX printed 60, which is wild. It was a ridiculous day back in August 2024. And that was just like a trickle of the money getting scared that Japan was going to actually go to a positive interest rate regime, that it was finally going to have inflation in its economy, and it was going to get out of this balance sheet recession that they've had since the 90s, ballpark, about 30 something years of basically zero growth and zero interest rate policy, lending out money at stupidly low rates. And that's a bit of a concern. On top of all the other major fuck-ups in the global economy, including the AI dumpster fire, Korea's stock market going full 1929, a few other factors like that, we now also have to consider the fact that if the yen goes up or the yield on yen bonds goes up at all, this shit all goes sideways so fast it's unbelievable.
We've been filming now for 3 hours and we need to go to the gym so we don't get fat.
That is actually wild, though. Anyway, I hope you appreciate that.
Ciao for now, my darling. See you next week. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. We are also now available on Spotify, so make sure to follow and give a 5-star review. Ciao for now, my darlings.